This is Black Girls Politicking. My name is Michaela, and today we are here with the incomparable Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Michaela.
So, before we really get into it, I want to ask, we are 7 days away from early voting. How are you
Oh,
feeling?
Jesus. Wait a minute. We got to take a pause. We need to go ahead
Seven
and do a
days.
praise break. Yes. Hallelujah. Yes. 7 days. 7 days. Let's get going, y'all.
7 days. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good and annoyed all at the same time. Listen, when you are me, you get hit from all sides. And typically when you're ahead, that's when people really start to kind of get ugly as the rubber meets the road. So, I'm feeling confident that people are not looking for politicians or the games of politics, but they are looking for real solutions. And so my confidence lies with the people. And I'm believing that the people are going to show up and do what they know how to do, which is to make sure that they continue to have a true and real and authentic fighter on the federal level that is not going to play political games.
Are getting hit from all sides. And I will just say, you are truly Texas tough because you are taking it like a champ. With that being
Yes.
said, you have built a national profile by being outspoken and being unapologetic. And honestly, as a Black woman, how do you navigate the tension between being bold and really being strategic in such a political climate, especially when your electability is often called into question and you
Yeah.
are really getting it from all sides?
No, I'm getting it from everywhere. So, honestly, once we emerge victorious out of this primary, it will only show my strength. And so I look at situations like this, like trials and tribulations, they only come to make you strong. That's the reality, right? Like, you need someone who is tested, battle tested.
Yeah.
The Republicans are not getting beat up by the Democrats and the Republicans. They just minding their own business and they're doing their Republican thing, right? And on my side, the Republicans are only coming for me. And we know that there's plenty of people within our party that have gotten really ugly. And let me not say within our party, because I honestly don't know where half of these people come from, and I don't know really where they stand because there's been so many outsiders.
Yeah.
So I can't say that. So I won't put that on them. There are people that proclaim to be a part of our party, for sure, that are also kind of like digging and attacking me. But, I didn't get here because I was necessarily the quiet girl, right? Like, that's not how I got here. I am who I am, and I am real. And for some people, it may turn them off. But according to all polling, I continue to have the highest favorability numbers when you are looking at how many people know me, right? So in the most recent poll that came out on yesterday, it talked about the fact that name ID for John Cornyn, as well as Ken Paxton and myself, we are the three who have name ID that they feel like they could really say, okay, people actually know who they are. And with us having the name ID that we have, I still had the highest favorability. Yeah. So the two people that are elected statewide have lower favorabilities than I do. But my name ID is just as high as theirs. And I think that really says a lot about what people are looking for in this moment. I think that most people are willing to accept somebody who's less than perfect. I think that they just want to know that it's somebody that understands like how messed up things are right now. And when you've got people that are so buttoned up and they're just acting like, oh, I can file a bill and that's going to fix it. That's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we've got to be able to think outside the box. We've got to be able to organize. We've got to be able to coalition build. And frankly, we can't be soft in this moment. Right? Like, Democrats being soft is part of what got us here. Yeah. Like, we have to make sure that we won't back down because the people are relying on us. Future generations are relying on us. And frankly, not only our democracy, but other junior democracies around the world are relying on us to step it up. And so people are frustrated, and I feel them. I do. And I think that that's what comes across, is that I don't do this for a title because I have a title, right? Like, I don't do this for a title. I don't do this for the money. Yeah. Money don't change. Same money in the House and the Senate. And frankly, the death threats, it seemed like they only go up, right? So none of this has anything to do with me as an individual as much as it has to do with us as a collective. and me understanding that I sit in a position of privilege, a position of privilege that requires me to recognize the sacrifices that came before me and understand the importance of paving the way for those that are coming behind me. That is it. Like, I am not your likely story, but I am what allegedly the American story looks like. So we're going to see how American we going to be. But at the end of the day, listen, I do this for the love of the people, for the love of this country, the only country that I've ever known, and really just wanting to get us to a space that really begins to look like what America espouses to be.
You said what so many individuals are thinking. The tide has changed, right? We are no longer doing politics as usual. And you touched on this a little bit, but I want to know what truly makes you ready to stand in this moment. I know, but for the individuals who may not know your background, who may not know your record, why are you the woman for this job?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm the only person that's currently serving in the Congress. I know most people only look at the House and they say that's the Congress is the House and the Senate. So I am the only person in this race that has experience serving in the Congress, but also I have experience serving at the state level. So understanding the interplay of that as we are constantly kind of flirting with what states' rights should look like and what is it that belongs to the federal government. As recently as just a week ago, the president was flirting with the idea of federalizing our elections, right? Like understanding who does what and how. But more importantly, I think for this moment, it's probably my experience as a civil rights lawyer. Like, even if I didn't have that legislative experience, I think what matters most is the fact that I have a civil rights background. And we are currently in the midst of a modern day civil rights movement, right? Like, when you look at the images of what's taking place, whether it's Minneapolis or LA or Chicago, when you see those images, you know, if you put them in black and white, you may not know that we are in 2026. Exactly. That's just the reality. And so the dehumanization of entire groups of people, the brutalization of entire groups of people, and you know, as you and I sit here as African Americans, we've been talking about you know, this state-sanctioned brutalization specifically of African Americans, and we have been trying for some time to pass legislation that would not just protect Black people.
Exactly.
It would have, if passed, protected everyone that is being brutalized right now. And that is the point that I really try to get across, right? Is that, you know, when something happens or when a Black person pushes forward with something because of the Black experience, it doesn't just end up benefiting African Americans.
Yeah.
It benefits everybody.
Exactly.
Getting the Civil Rights Act passed, it didn't just benefit Black people. It benefited everyone. And so, you know, it is my hope and prayer. It had been my hope and prayer. It seems like this election is bringing out some very interesting things in people. But it was my hope and prayer that we could go ahead and be united because division is what caused us to kind of end up in this place. Yeah. We can't allow people to divide us on our cultural background or our race or our sex. We have to literally just look at credentials. Yeah. And frankly, as someone who practiced law for almost 20 years, actually in the courtrooms, not just a lawyer on paper, licensed in 2 different states, practiced in both Texas, Arkansas, both state and federal courts. When it comes down to this particular job, this is the only body that has the authority to put somebody on a federal bench. Anybody that gets a lifetime appointment to the judiciary, whether it's the Supreme Court or another federal bench for a lifetime, they have to come through the U.S. Senate. And so having someone with my background who not only has a law degree, but is actually knows what a good judge looks like and what a bad one looks like and knows how to participate in those inquiries, it matters. Also, a lot of people don't realize that we go into depositions all the time. Now, I think people are just now learning because just on yesterday, I emerged from the closed door deposition with Ghislaine Maxwell. But the fact is, like, I do a lot of stuff that the cameras don't catch, including deposing Bill Barr, including a transcribed interview of Alex Acosta, who was the prosecutor of Epstein back down in Florida. So, like, these are skills that are beneficial to the entire country. And I'm the only one that brings them, along with people just really feeling like we need a fighter and they need somebody that they know won't fold. And to be perfectly honest, you know, we have a lot of questions about where my opponent will land on federal issues because he's never had to take a vote on a federal issue. So it's easy to say what you will and won't do
Until it's time.
until it's time, right? So that's like a wild card, right? But in addition to that, you know, the only experience, we served in the House for one term, and that was the term that we broke quorum, and I was one of the lead architects of that quorum break. But my opponent went back. Wow. He went back and gave the Republicans a quorum. And so I'm like, the only time that I know that we really needed like a fight, I know that like you didn't. So like this is all I got, right? Like this is all I got. And you know, I think that people are scared for good reason. And I think that they don't want to get this wrong. And I think that while there's so much noise about me being a woman, me being black, and I'm like, y'all don't realize that that's actually something that helps us in Texas. This is a majority minority state. It doesn't hurt us. We know that women will account for a larger portion of the general electorate than men. Yeah. So like, stop trying to say that black women, what we can't do. And instead just give it a shot because it's bigger than me being a black woman. Yeah. It's my qualifications. Yeah. And if you just focus on qualifications, then there's only one kind of result you'll kind of come to.
There was a ton of talk from non-Texans.
Yep.
There's been a lot of that happening, but there's also been this idea around where are your issues? Where are your issues? Where are your issues? Why are they not dropped? And let me just say this. I go through the issues with a fine-tooth comb, okay? And you drop those issues, and I could immediately tell that these are issues that were built with Texans in mind because these are things that we are actively having conversations with. So for you, which of these issues, which I'm sure at this moment, all of them feel urgent, but what do you feel like is the most urgent as you continue to campaign across this state?
I think the tariffs. I mean, I definitely deal with the ICE issue because it's impacting all of us in all ways. It doesn't matter if you're not the specific target. It is targeting our friends, our neighbors. It is impacting our economies in general. But, you know, when people are saying that they can't afford groceries, it comes down to the tariffs. And it's a combination of the tariffs and the immigration policies, to be perfectly honest. And having conversations with those that are in construction and them telling me about, you know, having people that aren't showing up to work, not because they've done anything wrong, but because they're afraid of being nabbed, because this rogue administration is okay with U.S. citizens or people that are here legally or whomever. They don't really care. They're just kind of doing a dragnet. When you start to show up at Home Depot and decide that you're going to go and take the people that are showing up to Home Depot and put them in what look like, you know, these prisons, and even when they're showing you their quote unquote papers, you know, all of this is impacting us. But I say if we could get the tariffs under control, then we could stop the bleeding for some of our small businesses that are filing bankruptcy, our farmers, our ranchers, as well as some of our larger corporations that now are filing for bankruptcy. And the reason that I mention them is because people need jobs. One of the reasons that we've lost 1.1 million jobs is because of the tariffs. So I think if we were to stop the bleeding immediately, that's what we have to deal with first, is the economy. Now, is there like hair on fire for everything else? Absolutely. I mean, it is. But I think that you need to stabilize the economy because if we are not stabilized economically, that impacts us as far as our security, internationally, and so many other things. So it is important. And also crime, right? Like it impacts everything. So we've got to stabilize the economy. And for me, the quickest answer is actually around the tariffs. Now, bringing up the issues, though, I do want to be clear. I just got in this race, to be clear, just got in this race. We only hit 2 months in the race only a couple of days ago, literally 2 days ago. That is a quicker amount of time than anyone else, at least on the Democratic side, took as it relates to putting up their issues page. That's number one. Number two, I don't feel like I can say that I have experience and then not lay it out. I don't know how many bills I've signed on to or authored myself, but it is over 1,000, we believe. I think it's closer to 2,000. I don't know. It's a lot. So for me, I couldn't just say, oh, I want to do this when I get there. I'm already here. So the question that people should ask is, well, girl, what you been doing, right? So we had to lay that out and spell that out for people across a lot. And the final point that I'll make is that recently we were contacted after everyone tried to make some hay about the fact that an artifact from the actual, like the page where the builder put everything in and it tells you what to put in, that an artifact was left on one specific thing. That's it. An artifact was left. This nothing major. They didn't want to talk about the fact that I have more issues than anybody else. They didn't want to talk about the fact that I got receipts for days, CVS like linked receipts. Okay. They didn't want to talk about that, right? They wanted to go in and critique, and it's cool, right? Because honestly, like I tell people all the time, hate is my motivation. If you know the song, sing along with me, right? Because what truly so many people mean for evil, God means for good. You wanted to try to critique my page, you ended up driving people to my page. Mm-hmm. Most people probably weren't going to pay attention to the issues page anyway.
Numbers went up.
Correct. I'm like, listen, you helped me. Thank you. Right? Because now people see the actual substance, right? Exactly. So that's fine. And we did not announce that we had gone live with our page because while we had sent in the information, we still wanted to review it because we knew, just like everything else, I've got to be quote unquote perfect, right? Mm-hmm. So we knew that. So we did not announce it, but we got scoped, and that's fine. It's fine that we got scooped. But there was a gentleman that sent us an email, a good Samaritan gentleman, I must say. Jamal is his name. God bless you, Jamal. Thank you, Jamal. I told him that. He sent us an email, and this email laid out that my main opponent in this race, his website basically was just copied from a Michigan candidate's. Jamal laid out that in his iteration of his website, he actually had copied over a Michigan-only program in talking to Texans. But because nobody was checking his page, it was there. And it seemed like no reporters wanted to report on that, which seemed like a bigger issue. But that's okay. That's okay. It's all good. And, there were some people on social media that are like, what about this? Right? And, they changed it very quietly. The screenshots live forever. God bless screenshots. But nevertheless, I'm like, bro, like y'all are like, stop playing with me and stop trying to distract people from the issues. This is why people don't like politics. And so frankly, I don't want people to be turned off. Yeah. So I don't want to engage. I want to continue to get to as many people as I can, talk to as many people as I can about what it is that keeps them up at night, and talk about what we are going to do to get out of this mess that we are currently in because we allowed ourselves to be divided. I will not stand for division. I will do everything that I can to promote unity, but I also am not going to let people play in my face.
And you should not. And we have seen that time and time again.
Yep.
Where you are now driving people to look and fact check your sources as well, because y'all are saying stuff and you are allowing outsiders, non-Texans, again, to partake in conversations around our politics here in Texas. Yeah. Now, I'll finish with this. I was born in Texas City, Texas, and I noticed that recently you were there for an event. And honestly, I've noticed that communities like that are often overlooked when it comes to statewide races. And one thing that you've talked about that I personally love is that you are looking to expand the electorate rather than persuade voters that just won't be persuaded, right? How does showing up in places like Texas City fit into that strategy? And what do you want voters in these communities to understand about their power?
Yeah, so here's the thing. There are those that have a perception that Jasmine cannot go into rural areas because they refuse to actually learn about me. But I started my legal career and my political career in East Texas as a young county party chair. I have always felt a lot better about being behind the scenes and helping. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm just out front helping. And so I understand what it is to wake up and smell, the sulfur from the paper plant, or to have to go to Shreveport or Dallas because there's not a healthcare specialist in my town. Like, I've lived that life. I've also practiced law in those courtrooms and been able to talk about and relate to people that aren't living in urban Texas. Again, divisions, I think, are our biggest problem. And a lot of the issues that rural America faces, so does urban America. But they like to make it seem like, oh, no, we're so different, and like, we're going to vote this way and you vote this way. No, it's time to have real conversations. And frankly, I think we've not seen the excitement or engagement because nobody ever talks to them. We recently earned the endorsement of Smith County Young Dems. And I bring them up because like I don't know how many people are talking to Young Dems in Smith County, right? And so we are going to continue to make sure, especially as we go forward, we have so many surrogates that are ready to hit the state. And I think that that's one of the unique things that I bring to the table, is being able to bring in all kinds of surrogates that are really excited, whether it's other electeds or whether it's Hollywood, whether it's the music industry, like, they're ready to come in. And I want to work with those down ballot candidates because we have people running up and down the ballot. For the first time since the 90s, we fielded those seats. So I want to make sure that, like, no part of Texas feels left out, right? So, if we can get a little bit of Hollywood in and, get people excited, I want to do that. I also want to show up when I can, but I still have a full-time job that I was elected to do. And I am still showing up every single day at work while also trying to make sure that Texans know that I am serious about earning their support. So I am team no sleep right now. But you know what? Democracy can't wait. Yeah. And if I go to sleep, democracy may very well die. So I am going to continue to work. I am going to do everything that I can to bring everyone in. And just because I'm not going after a certain demographic does not mean that a certain demographic is not welcome here. And I think that people are transposing that. And frankly, I think if the answer was to go after people that typically aren't necessarily inclined to vote a certain way, I think we've tried it over and over.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, it hasn't worked, right? And so I do think that increasing voter participation and engagement, especially in a state that has one of the lowest voter turnouts in the entire country.
Sure does.
It's not like we're turning out 90% or even 80% or even 70%, right? That would be a different calculus in my mind, because that means that you don't have anywhere to go. You don't have any expansion available. Like, you need to be converting. That's not the case when we're only turning out a little bit more than 50%. And when we look at who's not turning out, it's the majority of Texans. It's the people of color.
Yep.
Just saying.
And I mean, even in Harris County, where people do turn up to vote, we are seeing it shift at drastic numbers, right? We are seeing people who are disengaging every single day. So I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. And honestly, thank you for the work you're doing. Hashtag Team No Sleep. You are working. Okay. There's so many times where I'm like, how is this happening? How are you doing all of these things? And it's just the way that you are carrying yourself in this race is just so inspiring, especially for young Black women who dream of working in politics, but we're watching you really just shift the narrative around what it means to be in this fight and to be in this work, and in a state like Texas. Like, that is no small feat, no matter what other people are saying. We are just so proud of you. And I will be remiss, because she reminded me, my mother says congratulations in advance. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you to your entire team. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much. 7 days.
Thank you. 7 days. Let's get to voting, y'all.
You got a purpose. What is your reason? What is your fight?